Today we're going to be going over some of the best one spray to last all day fragrances out there. Might be a little bit of an exaggeration. You might need to go with 2 or 3 sprays. Typically, I would say that would be more of the normal, but you get the idea. It makes a good title. And I think we can all agree on one thing, and that's simply that things are getting too expensive these days to be bathing in your cologne. You know, gone are the days where most things retailed for $80, $85, $90, maybe $100, and then you could get it on discounters for half that price, or 60% of that price or something like that. It's not necessarily the case anymore. We see a lot of new releases, designers coming out at upwards of $150+ retail. So, I think you're going to see a big shift where people are going to be even more selective already in terms of what performs good and what doesn't. So this has been an ongoing thing over the years. If you were sick of it 3 or 4 years ago, people obsessing over performance, it's only bound to get worse given that the prices just keep going up. You're not going to want to spend $200, $250 on a designer that only lasts for 4 to 5 hours. That's just how it's going to be. Fortunately, I share the same thoughts as most of you when it comes to performance. I want something that's going to last for a long time. It doesn't have to be anything outrageous. I don't need it to last for 16 or 20 hours. I mean, that's ridiculous at that point. But something that I can spray on in the morning and be confident that it's going to get me through the entire day without having to think about it or reapply or worry about it. Most of us are too busy to have to mess around with something like that. So these are some great, powerful scents that are going to get the job done. The first one is Armani Code Parfum. It's one of the few Armani codes that you can buy anymore. It's one of the few that they're still making. It's pretty much the EDT, the EDP, and this one. Armani, they have been making some pretty significant changes with their fragrances. I'm not entirely sure what their end goal is, but nothing we can do, just along for the ride, I guess. And out of the ones that they are making, I would say that Code Parfum, in terms of the codes, is one of the best ones that you can get right now. I really wouldn't bother with the Eau de Toilette anymore. The Eau de Parfum is good. It's, pretty solid, but the Parfum is the best. It's going to have more of a Parfum-like performance, so it really does do pretty well. Not huge projection, but nice, substantial longevity. It's that Code DNA that we're all familiar with, but with a little bit of iris, and just has that traditional powdery kind of slightly woody, masculine, modern Code smell that we all know, just with a little twist. And that's typically what you would expect from the progression of an EDT to an EDP to a Parfum, kind of the final form before inevitably maybe an Elixir comes out. But, it's a really good Parfum flanker for what it's worth. And again, it's going to get you through the day, no problem. Going from one Parfum to another, from one huge fragrance line to another, it is Sauvage Parfum. And I think an obvious trendy choice would of course be Sauvage Elixir. That's definitely one that could be in here. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and it's also a lot more expensive, at least price per mil, in terms of this one. But it's a lot more expensive, at least in terms of price per milliliter, compared to all of the other Sauvage fragrances. I mean, you can get Sauvage Elixir 60 ml for $150 on discounters. You can get Sauvage Parfum 100 milliliters for around $120, $130, maybe a little bit more, but works out to be considerably more affordable, but still not cheap. And for what it's worth, I like the Parfum. I think this one was really in a weird spot because the spotlight was still on the Eau de Toilette and even some of the Eau de Parfum a little bit. The Parfum came out, it didn't really catch on like the others, and then the Elixir came out, which completely drove all of the spotlight, if any, away from the Parfum, and then it was all on the Elixir, and then the EDT is still doing its thing because it's an iconic one at this point. So I think the Parfum has always been a bit overshadowed, but it's a really good one that's going to give you that all day long longevity and mass appeal as well. Next up, we have Manera Intense Cedrat Boisé. This one probably could be a one-spray wonder. I mean, you could probably get away with it. Again, I would say typically a handful, a couple of sprays is going to be best practice. But if you really wanted to, make this go a long way, you could probably get away with that. It is simply the Eau de Parfum, but stronger, richer, and heavier, and only $20 more in terms of retail price. Discounters, it's roughly about $20 more as well. It's right around $100 on discounters. As far as niche goes, that's unheard of. And also, let's be real, as far as designers go these days, that's getting a bit more unheard of as well. Like the YSL Ys, Aqua de Jo's, and other fragrances out there from popular brands, Dior's, are more expensive than this. That's something crazy to even say out loud, but it's true. And I think as far as niche goes, entry level or not, even if you already have a solid collection of niche and designer built up, Intense Cedrat is still a must own. Next up, we have Stronger With You Absolutely by Emporio Armani. One of my favorites within the line, easily. One of the strongest as well. It's got rum in here with the chestnut, the vanilla, the tonka bean, all of that stuff. It's just giving it a little bit of a boozy kick, a little bit more of a grown-up feel, but it still is relatively mass-pleasing and juvenile, just with a little bit of a bump towards the slightly more mature side of things. Like I mentioned, I think this is probably one of the best you could get dollar for dollar, just playing it safe. You know, the EDT and Intensely, the Eau de Parfum, they're great. This one performs better. It's better overall. You get into the exclusive editions, and they also are really nice, but they might start to get away from that main idea a little bit. And I just think if you're wanting something to smell good and last all day, just get Absolutely. And you probably don't really need to bother with the rest of the line if you're not like a huge collector. Myself, I'll always buy them because I'm a big fan of them. A lot of other people are that way as well. But if you're not, you don't care about all that, and you just want one to get the job done, go for Absolutely. Next up, we have Killian Straight to Heaven. And this one here, no surprise, it's a fantastic niche boozy scent. And Killian, they do boozy gourmand fragrances like the best in terms of designer, niche, indie, everything. I mean, these are some of the most realistic and strong, rich, and powerful gourmand scents that I've ever tried. Really something special. And Straight to Heaven is my favorite within the line, so much so that I went out and tracked down Straight to Heaven Extreme, Straight to Heaven Oud and Musk Special Blend. And I believe, along with this original, those are the three that they have within this lineup. If they release more flankers, I will definitely get them. Those two there, though, were hard to get just on their own. It smells great. Woody, boozy, rich, sweet, a little bit spicy. The stuff is amazing, and it has great performance. Next up, we have Lahore Elixir. So, you know, it's an elixir, of course. Price point on this one is not outrageous on discounters. It's still a little bit more expensive than Le Male Parfum and Ultra Male and stuff like that, but it's also not quite to the Sauvage Elixir level or anything like that. It's a bit more manageable. You can get the 125 mLs for a pretty decent price. The 75 still work out to be around, I think, $90, $95 on discounters when they are in stock, which is this size right here. The 125s typically aren't that much more, so it makes sense to go for that larger bottle if you can. But really, they're not overly unreasonable, especially given the amount of value that you can get out of these scents here. The Le Male Elixir and even Le Male Parfum I think is really good as well, but this one I think is next level. The honey, the tobacco, everything about this one is really well done and well thought out. Great performance. That's not necessarily a surprise. Le Male Parfum, Ultra Male also have good performance. This one's no exception either. One or a handful of sprays is going to do you pretty well. Next up, we have Aeros Flame, one that I slept on for quite a while just because I was kind of getting a little bit tired of Aeros, and then the Parfum came out, and the Parfum reignited that spark for me. I'm like, yeah, this Parfum is really going back to what the Eau de Toilette DNA used to be. And then I kind of started going back to this one, even though I've had it for a long time, obviously, before the Parfum came out. I don't know, it was something where I just wore it here and there just randomly, and then I'm like, you know what, I really like how this one wears on my skin. It had been a while since I had, you know, used it prior to that, and what can I say, it's done a really big turnaround for me, one where now it's almost getting worn more than the Parfum, whereas the Parfum I was wearing pretty much consistently. I really like this because of the freshness that it has off the top. It doesn't have the cloying, minty sweetness like the others do. It has a little bit more of a citrus and slightly fruity, orangey, lemony opening, which again gives it a bit more of a freshness and more of an aromatic feel. Well done on Aeros Flame. You know, I would like to see them kind of rework this again or something. Make a, you know, an Aeros Flame parfum. Just maintaining this style of Aeros, just amping it up even more. I would really think that could do pretty well. I mean, they already have a regular parfum. They're probably going to go ahead and do an elixir because Versace is doing elixirs and stuff elsewhere. But yeah, I could just see this one really working well. Now that I think about it, I don't think Versace has done any elixir. I was thinking of Paco Rabanne for some reason. So yeah, scratch that. But Aeros Flame Parfum, I think that would be cool. Okay, next up, Bulgari Aquamarine. This stuff is fantastic. You know why? Because it is a super potent and one of the most realistic marine scents out there. Aqua de Jo and things of that nature are some of my favorites, but this just smells even more real, even more oceanic than all of the rest. So that is immediately going to be a point of contention. Not everybody's going to like that. The seaweed notes in here are seaweed notes. They're authentic smelling. Like, it really does smell like you're sitting on the beach, and I think it's great. Getting some orange in here as well, just a little bit of a fruity kick, a lot of musk to go along with that green seaweed, and of course aquatic notes and a bit of a saltiness. It's again, it's authentic as it gets. And along with that is coming really good performance. Just with the amount of depth behind this one, it really does last for a long time, which is also not something super common that you'll get with aquatic and summer scents. So this one is a really good purchase. And it looks like we're going to end this video with Gucci Guilty Absolute, a very controversial one. This is not something that everybody's going to like, but if you do, it can really make you stand out in a good way. Has leather and woody notes, some cypress in here as well, but it's all about the leather and woods. A dry, earthy, leathery, it smells just like a more traditional masculine scent, which we're kind of getting away from with how the trends are going these days. And that's what I like so much about this one. It's a change of pace. You know, when you're someone that is trying the new stuff all the time and they're all kind of running together, this is something that just changes it up and breaks up the monotony a little bit. Also not insanely expensive either. The prices are pretty reasonable. It's still a Gucci, and typically on discounters they are more of a premium price product, but still going to be a little under $100 for this stuff. Do your due diligence here, maybe sample it first, but if you like it, it's going to be one that gets you through the day. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some powerful fragrances that you only need a handful of sprays with to get you through the entire day. I'll drop links to all these down below. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.